Hi, and welcome back to the Post-Bariatric Surgery Diet webinar. I'm Prudence Tickner with Central California Surgery. And now we're going to talk about bariatric essentials for success. What are the key essentials to be successful after bariatric surgery? So with surgery, a lot of times after bariatric surgery, we had already talked about previously, you don't feel physical hunger. In the beginning, you tend to have nausea. You really don't, for many reasons, you basically don't have a desire to eat. And so, without bariatric surgery, we're always trying to get you to eat less, cut back. And so, after surgery, you don't have it's really the complete opposite. You still have that baseline nutrition needs that you need to get in, but you don't feel like eating. So that's why there's so many people that struggle with malnutrition as far as hair loss, saggy skin, sometimes losing their teeth, having in vitamins and mineral deficiencies. And so there is that baseline that you need to get in. So first and foremost, we encourage you to track your food, just so you can get, okay, am I getting my fluid needs in? Am I getting proper protein in? And so there is an app, it's specific for bariatric patients. And so it's called Bariatastic. So that's B as in Bob, A-R-I-T as in Tom, A-S as in Sam, T as in Tom, I-C. So Bariatastic. And then if you add that, it's going to ask you for a code, and the code is 87168. 87168. And what that'll do is attach you to our office. And what's really nice about that is, one, you'll get text messages because it'll ask you when your surgery is. And then you'll get reminders of what you need to focus on. And then also you could reach out to Katie or I, and we actually through the back office can look at what you're eating and send you messages, straight to your phone or your computer, whatever device you're using, to get, to make sure that you're staying on track. So we highly recommend that you track your food. And then, of course, protein, protein is so important. And believe it or not, it's really interesting. So you hear this all the time. You need to eat protein. You need to focus on your protein. But even with all the education that you get, it's one of the issues after surgeries. People are just not getting enough protein. So you definitely want to focus on getting protein first. And ideally, you can use the protein list that we give you. Minimum, you want to start with a minimum of 20 grams of protein at each meal. So that's something you want to start to work on now. Sugars, we want to decrease our sugars to a total of 25 grams per day. And so ideally going to the net carbs, that's 15. Remember, we talked about this previously, 15 carbs, net carbs. And so 15 times 3, that's 45. And then you're going to do 1 to 2 protein shakes a day. And that's where your other 5 grams will come in. So ideally, your total net carbs are 50 grams a day. And then you're doing 3 meals. You're not snacking. You are doing 3 meals a day and then the 1 to 2 protein shakes a day. That's what it'll look like after surgery. And these are things that you'll want to start to do now. And just going back to the sugar too, starting to become mindful. A lot of times you guys will do a lot of fruit. Like you're like, oh, I didn't have time to eat, but I just grabbed a banana. Well, depending on that size of the banana, that banana could have been 30 grams of sugar. So just one piece of fruit can put you above your total sugar for the day. So you definitely want to start to be mindful of sugar foods and, start to cut those in half. So for an example, if you're going to have an apple or a banana, it's better to have a half of a fruit. And then of course, always add a protein. So you could have half a banana with peanut butter, half an apple with some cheese, things like that. Because your pouch is so tiny, you need to, and also we're removing a lot of your digestive enzymes. It's really important for 2 reasons. One, we talked about it before, food can get stuck really easily. So you want to learn to take little pea or pinky size bites. So if you look at your pinky, the tip of your pinky, you want to start cutting your food up to very small bites. A lot of times patients will just practice with baby utensils because that's about what you can hold. So that's helpful. And then you got to chew your food to applesauce consistency. This is really important for two reasons. One, you don't want to get food stuck. And two, we talked about the nausea before. You can get really severe nausea. Or a lot of times, if you're already on the Facebook page, you hear patients of getting sick all the time, having a lot of nausea. A lot of that's just self-induced. It has nothing to do with the surgery. It's just a lot of times you guys don't do the pre-work. And so the more that you practice this stuff prior to surgery, you honestly can be the person that has smooth transitions, no problems, if you do your piece. And so you definitely want to practice the small bites, chewing to applesauce consistency. And then stop eating as soon as you're satisfied. So we do give you amounts, you go through these stages of the diet after surgery, and we'll tell you how much to eat. And because it's hard, there is a very fine line between being okay and too much. And usually it's one more bite. And so between being okay and then throwing up. So I would, encourage you to follow the portion sizes that we tell you to do, but also you can just, you take a few bites if and if you notice like, okay, I've had enough, because everybody's different. Everybody transitions at different stages or at different paces. And so just be mindful if you start to feel like, a lot of times it's like your mouth might start to water, or you might start to feel just a tiny bit nauseous, then you don't push it, So if the goal is saying 4 tablespoons of food and you are eating 2, and then you start to notice your mouth waters a little bit, or you start to notice a little bit of nausea, you just stop at your 2 tablespoons. And then also, because your stomach is so small, you can't eat and drink at the same time. So the rule of thumb is 15 minutes before you eat, the entire time that you're eating, and 30 minutes afterwards. And so this is, a lot of times patients say this is one of the harder things to get down. So you don't want to wait until after surgery to figure this out. You definitely want to start to practice this now. Even if you start in increments. So let's say you're having a full glass of fluids with your meals, cut down to a half a glass, then a quarter of a glass. And then you get to the where, okay, I'm just not going to drink with my meals. And then you can do the 15 minutes before and the 30 minutes after. But this should be second nature, the small bites, the chewing to applesauce consistency, the not drinking with your meals. This should all be second nature before you have surgery, because everything that I'm just talking about on this page, if you don't have it down, like I have patients that throw up every day, multiple times a day, and it's just because they didn't do the work and they didn't realize, the challenge of slowing down and being mindful and taking your time. So like I said, just start to put these things into practice now. Of course, no soda. The one and only thing that I know, I've talked about this previously, is there's no soda, no carbonation. Everything else will come back in moderation, but that's the one thing that is a forever no. It's Pandora's box. We don't open it. Because you do set yourself up to, one, be in pain, but with the carbonation and the gas expansion, you do end up eating more food over time. This is over time. So then you set yourself up to possibly gain some weight back, or a lot of times patients don't even get to their goal weight. So that's the one thing that is a forever no. And you have to be completely off carbonation 2 weeks before surgery. We've already talked about liquids. All liquids need to be less than 5 grams of sugar. There's lots of options out there as far as your sugar-free products. And then, of course, I just talked about this, with the vomiting, the nausea, the discomfort. A lot of this has to do with eating, definitely following the diet progression, which I'm going to be talking about coming up soon. But eating slowly. We live in a very fast-paced society, and everything is let's hurry up and rush, hurry up and rush. And so with surgery actually forces you to slow down. So that's something you're going to want to get into the habit of now. This whole like eating on the run, eating in my car, eating and working at the same time, that's not happening. So those are the times you could definitely do your protein shake. So if you're the type of person that skips breakfast and you wanted, you're just not going to do breakfast, then you can drink your protein shake on the way to work. That's fine. But definitely, if you want to minimize a lot of what you might see on the Facebook page, as far as people vomiting, the severe discomfort, the nausea that comes, a lot of that you can control by eating the right foods at each stage of the diet. Really slowing down tremendously. A lot of it has to do with very small bites, chewing, and taking time in between each bite. That will help a lot as far as the nausea and discomfort. And so I talked about this earlier with creating optimal fat loss. And there's a lot of people, you get on the scale, you lose weight, you see the scale go down. But a lot of times, if you're not eating properly, if you're not eating the way that we're teaching you, you could be losing a lot of muscle. So what does that mean for you in the long haul? A lot of times, if you've lost a lot of muscle, you'll just flatline around 100 pounds. I don't know why that is, but it just seems to be. And then no matter what, you can't get that, let's say you need to lose 150 pounds, you can't get that other 50 pounds off. So what you do in the beginning, the first 6 months when you have like zero desire to eat, drastically affects getting to your goal. And then not only does it affect getting to your goal, but keeping the weight off in the long haul. Because if you mess up your metabolism, what that means is you're naturally burning calories at a slower rate. So you want to get to your goal weight, but then you want to keep this off for a lifetime. And this is following these guidelines is what's going to do that for you. So we know we want protein to be more than sugar. We know that your total net carbs need to be 15 per meal, giving you 45 for the day, plus a couple extra with your protein shakes. Sugars need to be under 25 grams for the total day. And we want to eat 3 servings of healthy fats a day. These are things that you want to start to work on now. Pick one thing. Like I went through in the beginning. Am I eating 3 meals a day? Okay, let's start there. Next step, am I getting protein at every meal? Okay, are my proteins higher than my sugars? Okay, then let me track my sugar intake. And am I eating 3 healthy fats a day? So you can just pick one at a time, but ideally you want to be doing these things prior to surgery. You don't want to wait until surgery to figure this out. And then the 5th one, actually, it's not on here. It is in your book. The last thing you're going to focus on is calories. This one's hard. Like I said previously, with bariatric surgery, because of everything that's going on after surgery, you're going to be taking in about 300 calories. So at that stage, you are losing a lot of muscle. This is rapid weight loss. There's no way to prevent muscle loss altogether, but we can drastically minimize it. And so calorically, you want to be somewhere between 800 and 1200 calories. Now, this is not something that can be forced. You work on steps 1 through 4 first, but step number 5 is, am I eating 800 calories a day? And so this is something you don't force, but you have an intention. You are mindful about it. And when you get up to that 800 calorie mark, this is where you're going to minimize the muscle loss and maximize more of the fat loss in that zone, 800 to 1200 calories. And so that is it for this section. Thank you. And I'll see you in a minute where we'll talk about protein supplements.